I met Jamie at No Name's Marathon training last summer. He was preparing for the New York City Marathon like so many, but what struck me was Jamie's pace group. He's older than me, yet he's running with the 10s. The thing about running, you have to run your own race because you don't know what the person next to you has done to get there, right? But I was curious, to say the least, about Jamie's past, and I asked him if he'd share his story. Check out our conversation. All right, Jamie, man, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, definitely. That run Saturday was you guys were a little faster than I did.
Oh yeah.
Just a little bit. So
We run as one though, you know.
we do, but you guys just a little bit faster pace, right? So I was trying to keep up. Kept up for the most part, but definitely it helps me get faster and get better, which is why we're here, because you've definitely gotten faster and you've definitely gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big comic book fan, superheroes.
Yeah.
So tell us your origin story. Like, who's Jamie? Where's he from?
All right. So, well, let me just start. I turned 60 last year, so I'll be 61 this coming June. I grew up in just north of the city, about 30 minutes north of Manhattan, in a town called Hastings-on-Hudson, just past the George Washington Bridge. They call it the River Towns, right? It's so right in the shadow of New York City, but I would come to the city quite a bit. I was pretty athletic growing up, and played some basketball, played some volleyball. I played a little football, musician. I wasn't really a runner, although I did a little track. I did some high jump, a couple of those kinds of events. But running didn't really enter my life until I was in my 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
So what made you start to?
Well, pretty athletic kid, like I said. But then, when you get to college, or when I got to college, in order, you can always play like at the club level, but to play at a collegiate level, you get sorted out pretty quickly, So the biggest opportunities are when you're younger, and that was true for me. So college, I put on a little weight, got a little, I still play, I was still athletic, I was still involved, but as I graduated, I noticed that, my fitness really had kind of fallen to the back burner. And so it was really, I found the motivation somewhere to have to turn one day into day one. And I remember that day because I said, no matter what, I'm going to get out there and run. So I had a pair of crappy shoes. I lived not too far from the reservoir in Manhattan, and it was raining cats and dogs. And I mean, really torrentially raining. But I went out there and did it anyway. There was only one other person. It was amazing that there was anybody, but there was one other guy in the reservoir, and he was a big guy. And in my mind, I said, this guy's got the same mentality as me, like, whatever it takes. Like, this slide stops now. So that was sort of like day one.
It's interesting, like, as runners, and I have a similar story, but like there's a moment of, I tell everyone, when you wake up and you put your shoes on, the race is over. The run is done. Whatever you do after that is basically, for fun. Because it's mental, right? It's a lot of it is just like, how do I get up? How do I get out the bed and get out there and run? And it's raining. It could be super hot. Like, there's so many different challenges that we face.
Yeah.
Before we actually get to like running. So when we get out there and run, it's like, all right. Like,
yeah, I think a lot about that. I think about like the difference between motivation, which is the thing that gets our shoes on our feet. It's more like a feeling, right? It's connected to a feeling, like a goal. But when we're tired, or when the rain or when weather's bad, that motivation can kind of like start to wane. But that discipline, that consistency, that's really the difference maker.
Right.
So, showing up when we feel great, showing up when we feel okay, and showing up when, we'd really rather be staying in bed or doing something else.
Facts. What was your first race? Do you remember your first race?
So, I'm trying to remember. I ran the New York City Marathon for the first time. I mean, and I say this, without self-deprecation, I was all kinds of stupid. I was 25 years old. It was 35 years ago.
Wow.
35 years ago, 1990. They gave a cotton shirt. I still have it actually. And I was ill prepared. So I must have done like 9+1 if they had that. I don't remember actually what got me the bib to run it. Just speaks to how stupid I must have been. But I got into the race and I ran it. But leading up to that, I remember doing, I think Chase had like a couple of 5Ks in Central Park. I think the longest run I had ever done leading up to that first marathon 35 years ago was 10 miles. I mean, just to put a point on it, this was my running the marathon last year for my 60th birthday was like my older, wiser do-over.
Right. So what was that race like?
So that was amazing. And I will say, so the marathon itself is an incredible thing, incredible accomplishment for anybody. But I must say the journey to the start line was almost more transformative and special for me, right? Because I was more disciplined, as I was speaking about before. I just showed up, no matter how I was feeling, I just put in the work. I found Define through a friend, Julian, who's one of our Define and No Name runners. And so I owe him a lot for introducing me to this community. And the experience was amazing. Just sort of being around this, finding this community was incredible. It's a high common denominator. Everybody's got their why, and that kind of unfolds over time. So really connecting with this community of like-minded people. So I will say that leading up to the marathon was incredibly time-consuming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in order to put in that work, it is all-consuming. My wife, and it takes, if you've got a partner, it takes a lot from them too, because there's no Friday nights, right? You got to be, you're eating 3 bowls of pasta. You got to be in bed early. You're up, running for the first half of the day for those long runs. But it was a transformative experience. I felt my fitness level grow. The marathon itself, it was like a tale of two races for me. I definitely made some rookie moves even at the tender age of 60. I went out too hot and too fast. The first 13 miles I was flying and feeling incredible. When I got to the Queensboro Bridge, like my hips locked up and I felt this whole kinetic chain of pain shooting down my legs, places that I never really hurt before. But anyway, I always figured I would be struggling at some point. I didn't expect it to happen quite that early. So the second half of that race, by the time I hit First Avenue, I really was struggling, but I got it done. So
that's all that matters. Across the finish line.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
My first one, I actually went out pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I got to Queens, and then my quad just froze up.
Oh man.
And so I ended up having to kind of run, jog, walk.
Yes.
For the rest of it. Because as soon as I would start to run a little bit, it would start to lock up. So now I gotta walk, and then it was all right, walk, jog a little bit, and then started running again. It was painful. The second one, I was totally. I just coasted the whole time. I didn't go too far. My friend was with me. He was running with me, and I said, look, I'm not gonna go out too fast. It was his first one, so I was like, I'm gonna try to keep you here so that you don't lose it.
Right.
And at some point around mile 4 or 5, he was like, all right, I'm out, and he took off.
Okay.
And I was like, all right. And at some point I passed him. I don't know where I passed him.
Wow.
He was like, man, you passed me. He's like, I was trying to call you, but you couldn't hear me. And he kind of died down a little bit. But again, to your point, that race is you can't you gotta take it easy. And they say doing that 10-10-10, the first 10 you gotta coast.
Yeah.
Second 10 you pick it up, and then the last 10K is when you kick in. So I'm gonna try that for the next race.
Yes.
Chelsea. But you spoke about No Name, right? Define, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
you know, we both run in that community. I
Mhm.
found it through coffee. You know what? I find it to be very what's the word? Inclusive.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So again, I said at the beginning, like, you know, you guys are running, you guys in the 10s and 11s, and you know, you guys are up there, and I'm in the 13s, and so I'm a little bit behind. But like, talk to me about like that feeling of running with Define and then No Name training in the summer. Like, how was that?
Okay, so I absolutely share. You know, for me, that is paramount. That inclusiveness. I'm just trying to find the right word. Yeah, it is. You know, when you look around, you know, on during No Name or in Define, it's all ages, it's all colors, it's all ethnicities, and we are running as community. That is extremely special and important to me. You know, and it is a supportive community. So that is. I never lose sight of, you know, and I'm deeply grateful for that aspect of this. It means a lot to me. I do want to say one thing about that sort of the pace that you come back to a couple of times. You know, when I started to train again, you know, I trained myself up last year, like starting in January, just with like the watch for the Brooklyn Half, the RBC Brooklyn Half.
Sure.
And it was a little bit of a wake-up call. Even though I had done 9+1 in 2024, which got me my bib for November 2025, you know, I was still considering myself pretty green. And there was an incongruity with, you know, with where I thought I should be and where I actually was, right? It was like a reconciliation of that teenager or that 20-year-old that really was like fit and athletic, and where I was now as a 50, you know, late 50s. And so that actual incongruity kind of got in my way a bit, right? Like I thought I should be running faster than I was, so I was always sort of disappointed in myself. And then I just had like an aha moment, which was just like I quieted those voices in my head and just said, you are where you are. Be where you are. You know, be where you are, be present. And when I did that, I'm simplifying that process, which but once I did that, that's when the real work could begin for me, right? Someone told me about heart rate training mode, right? So instead of going out and running like for 45 minutes at a certain pace, I was running for 45 minutes, keeping my heart rate in a certain zone. And that was a real profound change for me because it actually slowed me down a little bit, right? You know what they say, you got to run slow to run fast. And the biggest leaps in terms of your cardiovascular health take place at about 60% of our max heart rate. So focusing on heart rate target training was really interesting process for me because it slowed my pace down, keeping my heart rate within a certain range. And what I noticed was over time, over weeks and over months, that my pace would get faster, but my heart rate would stay the same. A real sign of like improvement in fitness.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I slotted myself in with the 10s during the No Name training program. And it felt right to me. You know, I felt like I was sort of like right in the middle. And probably by the end of that training, I felt like I was kind of right near the front of the pack. So again, just coming back to that consistency and showing up, you know, and also just being true to yourself, you know, where you're at, man. The pace will come, you know.
Yeah, it's the ego, man. Like, you know.
Yes.
I'm a former athlete, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
what was your sport of choice?
Basketball.
Okay.
So, you know, I played professional basketball, and so when I first decided to run my first race, I'm seeing my friends like they run the Brooklyn Half, and they're like they got medals and stuff. I'm like, I could do this, man. So I was living in Phoenix at the time, so I'm training out there, and great for training. It's all flat, you know. The blocks, you know, one avenue is a mile, a block is a half mile.
Oh, right.
So it's gridded, so it's perfect. So, you know, you know I could go 2 blocks down and come back around. I know I did 5 miles,
Right.
like perfect, great runs. But there's no hills.
Yes.
And there's no
Hills
humidity.
pay the bills, baby.
There's no humidity. So we come to New York, right? Humidity is crazy.
Oh, yes.
We get to Prospect Park, and I could not hit that. When I hit that in the hill, I was dying.
Oh, right.
And so we get out to Ocean Parkway. And I'm saying like, just absolutely dying, and I'm seeing people just going by me, and you gotta let your ego of like, or your pride like,
oh yeah,
he shouldn't be running faster than me.
Oh
she shouldn't
yes,
be running faster than me.
Those voices is all up here, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right?
You gotta let it go. So immediately I was like, you know what? I don't know anybody's fitness level. I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they're going. You got it. So that was my aha moment. My wake up call would be like, all right.
Yes.
So as I train, I just think about my journey. How do I get there? How do I? I can't look at the 6, 7s, 8, 9s.
No.
I can't look at you guys. You guys, wherever you are, like Zaire's awesome. Zaire runs like 1,000 miles a week.
Yes.
That I don't have time. And I can't. I don't even know if I want to get there, right? Because it takes a level of commitment that I may not want to aspire to. But speaking of commitment,
yes,
this does take a lot, right? So,
yes, it does.
How do you find the time to train? You talked about earlier, saying marathon training, almost caused a divorce, right?
No, it is true. It was like, and I had just to talk about that one aspect. When I realized just how much time and that 16-week training was gonna what kind of time commitment that was gonna be. I actually had a conversation with my wife, and it's like, I just want you to know this is gonna be very, all-consuming, and it's gonna cramp our social style. I'm not gonna be drinking. I'm not gonna be doing, a lot of the things that we normally would do on a weekend, because this is important to me. And just to share a little bit, I'll get back to it. My father did not make it to 60 years old. So, as 60 approached for me, actually 2 years, I wanted to do this for myself. My wife also, right around the time we moved here to Brooklyn, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Thank God she, survived fully. But, it was a bit of a wake-up call. I just, we talk about our reasons for our why. So those are obviously front and center for me. Wanting to be a better version of myself, for my wife, for my kids, I have fraternal twin boys. They are now 28 years old, so they're, young men. But just be a better version of myself for the important people in my life. Getting back to the time commitment, it is hard, right? Now, during non-marathon training, right, just our sort of week in, week out, I've just made some choices. I've made a lot of this non-negotiable because it's important to me, and I know myself that it's important that I show up week in and week out, right? And so I've made some lifestyle changes, and it's all the dividends are there. We were talking about hills paying the bills, I do hills almost every Thursday, once a week, but I started just running up a hill and being totally gassed at the top, nothing left in the tank. Now I can kind of steadily run up a hill and accelerate over the top and maintain a pace. Another non-negotiable, I have 3 non-negotiables every week. Tuesday, speed work. Thursday, hills, and a Saturday long run. I do swimming as, cross-training. I still have left strength. Talking about time, I'm still leaving strength training on the table. I do not, I haven't yet figured out the math to work that in. Well, this is a long-winded answer to say is, I agree with you, man. This takes up a lot of time. There's a lot of things to do to supplement this, to make us better. But I think the mindset is just, if something is important to me, then I'm going to make the time for it.
Yeah, and for me, it's health, right? I want to be able to I want to be able to move. I want to be able to have the mobility. I want to be able to have the strength as I get older. I don't want to have someone have to push me around and have to, be frail. And I've watched my relatives grow older, and I know, like, if I can move and I can keep, I can be healthy and I can do these things and I can eat right and change my lifestyle, or even just do a little bit to an extent. It's gonna extend my life, but also it's gonna make the golden years a lot
Quality. Better to be the old guy at the track than the young guy in the assisted living home.
Right. Exactly. So you got 1 star, right? You got the New York City Marathon. Are you shooting for the other 6 or 7, or is it?
It's funny, man. We were talking about this. If you ask me, so let me just say this: I do not foresee myself getting 6 stars, right? And 6 months ago, I wouldn't ever have thought about or considered doing an international race. But because of this community, it's kind of infectious, right? It rubs off on you, and we see, you're running Berlin this year. That's amazing. We got people who are running London, people who just ran Boston, people who ran Tokyo, Paris Marathon just happened. So I will say that I've never been to Japan. And that is on my short list of special trips to take. And I am now giving serious thought to turning the first part of that trip into running Tokyo. Hard marathon to get into, so probably have to do some sort of charity component, which is all good.
Yeah.
So that's taken up a lot of real estate in my mind right now. So.
Now it is. You guys know Berlin, we got unfinished business. Y'all know. So I'm back to Berlin. But yeah, like, you even with New York, right? So last year, I said I'm not running New York again until I get my 6 stars, and it'll be like my victory lap, right?
Oh, wow.
And now I'm running New York this year.
Okay.
You
wait, you're running Berlin and New York?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it's like, I did Chicago, New York in 23. Because if I'm ready training, right? I'm ready doing the training for it, so you might as well, right? Like that's my thought. But yeah, I want to get to London, Tokyo.
You want to do them all?
Boston, yeah.
Yes.
We go back to the mental part, right?
Yes.
I have to give myself the ultimate why.
Yes.
There's 14,000 people who have like the 6 stars, somewhere around there.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
In totality of running, right?
Wow.
Let me join that.
That's quite a club, man.
Let me join that club.
That's quite a club.
If I can join that club, I'll be very happy.
Wow.
So to get there, that's going to push me like, all right, let's get the rest of these stars. And then after that, I'll retire to half marathons and 5K, 10Ks.
I heard a good, my social media, I'm sure yours is too, is just flooded with running related stuff. Mm-hmm. A really good quote was like, always be half marathon ready. Now, like compared to, training for a half marathon is no joke. I'm running the RBC Brooklyn Half in less than 4 weeks. So I'm right in the midst of heavy training for that. But it's more manageable, right? Yeah. A better sort of work-life running balance for that. But I like that as sort of a mantra. It's sort of like it's manageable. It's not all-consuming. It's consuming, but it keeps my fitness level up there. So that's kind of like how I'm approaching my non-marathon running years, which this is. I'm doing 9+1. I'll be running New York City in 2027. By the way, we will all be out there cheering for you in New York this year. Man.
Appreciate it.
For sure.
So what's next for you?
Well, it's a great question. I haven't talked we've talked a little bit about like the mental benefit, and I feel like movement is medicine, right? That's a great mantra also. Whenever I'm up in my head, we're up in our heads, wherever our ego is, feeling a little bruised by someone flying past us, or whatever it is that's weighing on me, running is something that really does wonders for that. You know, gives me some clarity. It's kind of like poor man's therapy. You know, get out there, get out of my mind, get out of my head and into my body, and start moving. So just gonna maintain, do some, you know, having fun with the 9+1 this year. Gonna run that half in mid-May. Maybe I'll run another half this fall. This running community that we're part of has really, you know, changed my life. You know, I really love the people in it. I look forward to those Saturday runs. You know, if I miss it, I really have that FOMO. You know, so and I think it's so more of the same, and you know, maybe start making plans for that that first international marathon. That's a nice goal.
Nice. Well, where can we find you? Where can people follow your running journey?
Okay. So I kind of chronicle my fitness and running journey on Jamie Runs NYC, JAMIE Runs NYC. And one thing I wanted to say, when I started this up again a couple of years ago, running 2.5 miles on a treadmill at a very chill pace left me completely gassed and winded. And now, you know, 6, 7, 8, 10 miles is, you know, I don't want to say it's easy money, but it's, you know, we get that done on the regular. So if there's anybody out there who sees themselves in me, you know, maybe they are middle-aged, they're 60, they're in their 50s or 60s, this is absolutely doable and will change your life. So
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I'm still a little slow on the 2-mile treadmill, but I'm getting there. But thank you.
Oh, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday.